YouTube, what is goody? It is your boy, Big Typhy, and I am back with another video. I hope y'all week is moving swimmingly. My week so far is pretty fire. I had a nice amount of good news coming my way. All having to do with creative endeavors. I reached out to my buddies who do movie showings, and they are having one next week on the 17th, and it's horror themed. It's called the Graveyard Grindhouse. It's a double feature. And the cool thing is I reached out to them to show a music video I shot almost a year ago, called Sweeney Tie, one of my tracks off my album Showbiz. Look that up. Typhy on all platforms. Sweeney Tie is based on a barber who snaps and ends up murdering somebody close to him. They actually had another movie screening earlier this year, but the vibe of that and my dark, creepy cinematography did not match what they were going for. But luckily, they have the Graveyard Grindhouse coming up, and I reached out to my boys Nate and Blake, and Nate ended up getting back to me pretty quickly and was like, yeah, just bring your flash drive and it's a go. The cool thing about this is, amongst other things, is that it's gonna be at the MCA, the Museum of Contemporary Art in Denver, downtown Denver. One of my favorite museum venues. They have really dope exhibits, really dope galleries, and they have a fire rooftop where they serve kombuchas and, of course, hard elixirs and drinks. And they have just nice soirees, and sometimes they have this thing called B-sides where they get local artists to come up and perform. So it's going to be in the Holiday Theater, which I don't think I've been to at the MCA. I personally have never, at least I don't think I've been to the Holiday Theater, but it's so cool that I get to play my music video, have a premiere, have a themed event, and have it on a big movie screen. And it's cool too because my very first video I ever shot, it's called East Side Story. That's also on my album Showbiz, Typhy on all platforms. They also played that video, and I was the first person to have that done in that atmosphere for one of their movie showings. The only thing is, every time they had a movie showing, it was never lined up on my off days. It was either a Wednesday or maybe, I don't know. I don't know exactly which days. I feel like Wednesday was one of them, but I work Monday through Wednesday, and then I'm off Thursday, Friday, and then Sunday. So my schedule's pretty rigid, for one. I tend to keep my schedule pretty set in stone because, one, I don't want to talk to my boss ever, and I love my Sundays. So people are like, why don't you have 3 days in a row off? Because, I don't mind taking Saturday off. Saturday's not really my stage. But anyway, I hadn't been able to have any days off to even go to their events. And the last screening they had, when they showed my video, I wasn't there, but my film videographer, Jeremy Pape, he ended up getting to go. And that was just a really cool way to be a catalyst for the art that we created. You know, creating the art is one thing, but to be intentional about the rollout, that's a whole different art in itself. And I wouldn't say that I've mastered it, but I've had some cool victories when it came to that. And the guys at Popcorn and Jalapenos, the movie guys, they've been a huge part of creating a dope world around my art. So I like to give it up to them. Shout out to them. Popcorn and Jalapenos is having another movie screening, The Graveyard Grindhouse at the MCA, October 17th, starting at 5. First movie starts at 6. I don't know exactly when my video will be played. I don't really care. It's gonna be in due time. Jeremy is getting in from Europe. I don't know if he's gonna make it. Hopefully he does, which would be cool. I know that he loves seeing his art in these realms too. So yeah, and you know, we got some other cool things in the works, some cool vlog episodes coming up for the theme of Halloween. I had a pack touchdown that I'm extremely grateful for. Took a lot of stress off my plate. So yeah, celebrated Breeze's birthday on Sunday. We went up to Glenwood Springs and had a mountain getaway and went to the hot springs and ate some good food. It was a 2.5 hour drive. So I just say that to say it's been a really, really, really good week on my end. But without further ado, what I'm really here to do is I'm here to do something new. A lot of times you see a lot of YouTubers do the story time thing. So I figured that I'd utilize that method because not that it's been a slow week for vlogging. It's just more so when I took Breeze to the mountains, I wanted to be present, so I didn't film it. I wasn't even really gonna touch base on that, but I was just giving more of a glimpse into my life. But since I didn't really go to any too many, since I didn't like meet with an artist or do any behind the scenes stuff anywhere, I decided that I'm gonna have a story time. And it's a story that's pretty interesting on my behalf, I would say, because I'm not really the person. Well, I'm a lot different than I was 6-7 years ago. But this situation involves me getting locked up. Locked up for 2 months, 54 days. When I was a youngster, and I want to say early 20s, I was kind of a wild boy, you know? I don't know if you saw any of my other videos, but it's my 6th year not drinking. And prior to that, I used to drink all the time. I mean, it was something that was a part of my weekly, sometimes daily routine. I wanted to tell this story just to get a further glimpse into my life and try the story time thing out. But also, you know, it's always good to have a little controversy. And I'm hearing a lot of stuff about these YNs and stuff. And maybe my story can dissuade people from wanting to get into criminal activity, even though I wasn't in criminal activity when I got locked up. But maybe it'll put a different perspective on the whole situation. I'm not going to get into why I went to jail due to the people that it affects. I'm sure that would cause some good clickbait or whatever, but I'm not going to get into the reason why I went in order to, you know, consolidate the identities and also the feelings and psyches of the people that it affected. But yeah, let's get straight into it. So I was 22 when I had to sit down in Denver County Jail for almost 2 months. Reminds you of that track on the album named after the same name, Future's album, 56 Nights. I say 56 Nights, crazy. But I was not in Dubai. I was right up the street. But I was 22, and like I told you, I was wilding, drinking practically, if not every day, every other day, every few days. Definitely a part of my routine. Doing other things. I used to do a lot of hard substances in an experimental phase. I wouldn't say that took up a lot of my life, but I did frequently do a lot of things, especially depending on who I was around. I was a chameleon in that way. I used to smoke a ton of trees, if you will. That's mostly what I did, especially in between times that I didn't drink. I would always hang out with homies and they would smoke me out. And I pretty much was just a mooch off my friends for their Wi-Fi and their trees. But anyway, the night I got locked up, I'm in the car with this officer. He's a real bright red guy, kind of a big guy with real super bright, super large cheeks. We got to talking, and I forget what sparked it, but he opened up about how he struggled with alcohol. And the reason why his cheeks were so swollen was because of his overuse of drinking. I found that to be interesting for an officer to open up like that. But it was one of those times where I'm like, yeah, police are human. All the things we hear about police and all the things that are confirmed about police, but at the root of it, they still deal with the same inconsistencies and moral defects that us civilians deal with. So we're driving in the squad car and we're heading downtown. I'm like, oh, snap, like this is real. But mind you, I've been arrested at least 4 other times, minor in possessions. No, not 4, maybe 2 other times. A minor in possession, and then I forgot if we were reprimanded, but we were drinking in my buddy's car in his driveway, and the cops drove past, and we just looked at them, and we started dying laughing, and they didn't really like that. So we ended up getting arrested for that. But nothing happened other than just an overnight stay in the intake area. But yeah, I'd been arrested 2 times before, so I kind of knew the feeling. So we're driving up, boom, they take us to the back, and they take us into the intake area. I hate the intake area because you sit there for hours waiting to be processed, blah, 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 blah. This time was a little different. I saw somebody that knew my mom, so that was kind of like, kind of ignored that. But I remember I had a backpack with me, and I was like trying so hard to like finesse some type of like, oh, he's a good kid in a mad city. Trying to finesse to see if I could, get somebody to, let me out. I remember I had my actor portfolio, and there's this real pretty officer. I think her name was Bautista. I gave her the portfolio, and I showed her, blah, blah, blah. And she was like, this is good, this is good, this is great. Well, let me tell you, that did not help, because your boy ended up having to change his clothes, put on the jumpsuit they give you. It's like this horrible bright yellow. And I was put into a intake cell, which is basically solitary confinement, and stayed there overnight. I don't remember, but I was eventually moved into another type of cell where I had one other bunkmate. It's a chill black dude. I don't remember his name, but he was in there over some DV stuff. I'm just gonna say mine wasn't far off, but it wasn't nothing crazy or nothing like that. So I'm sitting there with kicking the stuff with the guy. I don't really remember too much, but we were kind of a similar age, so we were just like both groaning and both going, kind of like really just like struggling with the fact that we were in there. He had a daughter and stuff and the whole family, so that was affecting his stay. Intake cells are freaking terrible. Let me just tell you that. The showers are cold. They give you this hand soap to wash with. Just very meager necessities. And you literally sit for hours on end, just whistling, just waiting to get some type of, cue about your upcoming court date. So we're waiting and waiting, and this all didn't take more than a day. But I remember getting into the courtroom and sitting on the benches and waiting for my name to be called. And of course, my name's Tyreek Swingler, so I'm last out of everyone. And they finally called me up, and the public defender came up to me and he was like, these are your charges. Basically, you're going to have to do probation till blah, 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 if you plead guilty to this, this, and this. And I'm like, man, probation? So I got a piss test and I got to pay almost $600, and I have literally zero money. Like, I'm in between jobs. Like, it's not it's not looking sexy for your boy. I forgot how the conversation go. Mind you, this is 2014 or something like that. So this is almost 10 years ago. Public defender tells me this, and that, and I'm like, I think I just pled not guilty or no contest, something like that. I wasn't really, if I would have pled guilty, I would have been out literally the next day, but I would have had to start probation, pissing in cups, and then paying for these classes every week. Didn't want to do that, so I pled not guilty, I think. I forget what happened, what made me have to stay in jail. I can't remember if I pled anything off top, or if I postponed my date. I don't remember. But yeah, go back into intake, sit in that terrible cell for like another day or a half day, and then I get upgraded to general population. So general population is like a whole hall, essentially. There's the mess hall in the middle, and then there's upper level of bunks and a lower level of bunks. And every bunk area has 2 bunks. Every few feet, there's a cluster of bunks, 2 to be exact. So 4 guys sleep in every cluster of bunks. In the middle area, there's a TV that's slightly elevated, and you could pull up a chair and watch TV. There's a basketball court and with a pull-up bar, and then next to that, there's the sheriff who just sits at the desk and on the phone all day. And then there, so that's like the layout of the place. And I tell you, I was shook. I was freaking shook. I had never been in the jail community. So, you hear all these stories about people being locked up and getting accosted and, getting either pressed when they walk in and, or getting, their bunghole taken. It's funny, they ask you that, like, are you fearful of that? Getting your bunghole taken in jail. So they, basically they just separate you from everyone, but it's just horrible. I mean, being in the intake or the solitary cells are so terrible. But yeah, I'm in general pop, so I kind of choose the quiet route. I just kind of keep my head down. First thing I go is see a group of books. I grab the first book I see, Gilgamesh the King, and I sit down, and for the next week or so, I just kind of bury my head in this book. Really good book, actually. A lot of the books I read in jail really helped me through that whole stint. But yeah, so I had those initial fears, like I was like in like a prison jail setup, but it was completely the opposite. Most of the guys were had very petty offenses. They weren't going to be there for more than 5 months, which is still like yikes. But most of them were just family guys and maybe made a mistake, or a lot of people that I didn't know were actually homeless. Because, I got out and I saw a lot of the guys, on the streets, either asking for money or, just wandering with bags in their hands. So it wasn't really it wasn't the thing that I stereotypically thought that I was getting into. So eventually, a lot of DV cases, a lot of DUIs, a lot of petty stuff like trespassing, people flashing people. But yeah. So, after the first few days, naturally you start to socialize and you start to meet people. And there was this real charismatic guy in there, tall guy with a curly afro. They called him Obama because he literally was a spitting image of a young Obama. But he kind of, in a way, he was the comedic relief. He was in a way the pod leader. I don't know if it was because he looked like Obama, but like he just kind of had that personality and people gravitated to him like that. I don't think he was a street guy, but you never know in these days and times. But he didn't have no tattoos or anything, and he literally looked like Barack Obama. So it wasn't like nothing that kind of stuck out to you like that. But there were guys that I knew from different high schools and that you could just shoot the stuff with. And there were some dudes in there in the mix that had some heavy time, like were there because they did their first 25 years and now they're getting out the next year. So there was stuff like that. A lot of mix of people, a lot of meth heads. I know this one guy who was a lawyer. He was like the pod lawyer, but they would give you this, and this is how they do you in jail. They give you like a 1980s Macintosh computer with like black and white font and like a freaking laser light screen for you to look up, law and stuff. And it was called Westlaw, and it's just so basic. And there would be this guy who was a lawyer, who was a meth head lawyer, who would like, and he was pretty open about that too. He's like, yeah, I'm a lawyer, but yeah, I'll be on that shit. They call it ICE. But he would kind of talk to people about their stuff and stuff, pro bono and stuff. But it's like, you can never fully take these dudes seriously. But the thing about my case was my court date was postponed or whatever, so I had to go to court again. So I just remember in the earlier days of my stint, I went to court. This took a while too, like a week or something. It felt like forever because I didn't really know my fate. I was definitely not taking probation, so I was trying to see what the other options were. And what I was getting from not only the jailhouse lawyer guys and other people around me, they were like, man, you just need to sit down and just get that case off your back and you won't even have to do probation. I'm like, sit down? What do you mean? Like, sit down, like, however long your ask the lawyer how long they want you to stay to, essentially time served. And I was like, dang, I gotta sit here. I didn't want to be here in the first place. And you're saying that in order for me to really like get out of here scot-free is to sit down for some indiscriminate amount of time? And they're like, and I was like, oh my God. Because some guys are in there 5 months, 120 days. One guy I had met, he was cool at first. He had all these, he would always have stuff on his commissary. I think some older man was paying for his stuff. I don't know. He lived an interesting life. But he had tattoo comics, and he would always let people borrow his stuff. But he kind of switched up at the end on some weird stuff. But he was in there for 120 days. I'm like, dang, 120 days. Like, I don't know if I could do that. And it's so like messed up because it's like the only like sliver that you could see outside is if you go to the top bunks and you go to this like corner and you could like just see like a little bit of Bannock Street. And Bannock Street is like, you could like see a little bit of the like kind of near the Lindsay Flanagan jailhouse and across the street and stuff. You just see this little sliver and see people walking. And I was like, dang, I gotta be here for how long? Dang. But I do not want no probation because, one, I see people violate all the time. And, that's a big way how they keep you in the system. So I definitely was not trying to do that. So I ended up waiting for another court date. Once a day, the nurse comes in and she gives people medication. And I remember when you get subscribed medication, you have to talk to a jail counselor, and everyone has to do this, whether you don't request it. You don't request things in jail. And I remember going into the office of the counselor and her asking me if I was on any drugs or anything, and being like, no. And talking about sleeping pills, blah, blah, blah. And she was like, do you need some? And I was just like, I found that very interesting. And like, wow, you could literally get high in jail if you wanted to. If it really was a focus, it would be, I'm not gonna say it'd be easy, but with some effort, you could get high in jail. I said no to the jail counselor, go back to my room. Now, your days in jail are so freaking mundane. They wake you up at 5 for breakfast. Then you have like a snack. And then you eat around 11 or noon. And then everything's consistent of eating, everything's timed by eating. And then most of the day, you're just freaking watching TV, playing cards. I was drawing and reading a lot. The one thing about jail, though, that I found interesting is that they have literally barbers in that mug. I mean, there was this Mexican guy who was cutting everybody up. High top fades, taper fades, bald cuts. And they had some pretty decent clippers in there. And they give you this little dinky shaving equipment. But I didn't know that I could actually like have somebody take me up in this mug. So I remember when I went to court, my friends were there and they were like, dang, he's buff and he has a whole cut. And people are so creative in jail. I mean, they're making beanies out of socks. I remember this guy had like sock string tied up to the top of his bunk and like chopsticks and was like spinning this stuff into a beanie. There's a lot of bartering in jail. Especially people that got commissary, they're practically, the big cheeses in jail because they can, get services, not them type of services. But, if you're an artist or if you have commissary or you have any type of specific talent, people will, to buy their time, they'll try to utilize you and create some commerce with you. Yeah, people spinning sock beanies, a lot of crazy art. I drew a lot. I remember this guy, the guy I told you that switched up, who had the tattoo mags. The tattoo mags would have all these kind of like flash tattoo designs, and I would just kind of draw those over and over. And I remember one guy who was like, "I'll trade you 2 noodles for a girl, like a geisha, Asian geisha. What other type of geisha is there? A geisha with, in the picture, she had 2 daggers in her hands, but he wanted me to put 2 needles in her hands." Yeah, so I did that for some noodles. Another thing I didn't know about jail was that in this particular jail, they give you a job. So I've always worked in a kitchen in my life with my parents at their smoothie business, or in concessions, or in catering. So that wasn't new to me. So when it came time to pick a job, there was either laundry, kitchen, or something else. I forgot. Cleaning, maybe. I decided to do kitchen. What I didn't know is that they had me waking up at 1 a.m. My shift started at 1 a.m. till 6 a.m. So they pulled me up out of bed, go down, and we had to essentially prepare all the food for the breakfast for the inmates and for the police. Now, mind you, when you get into general pop, your food is a little different. It consists of very basic stuff like these thick bread sandwiches with mustard, milk, this thing called goulash, which is like just meat and tomato sauce, like a pasta sauce thing with some meat, corn, very meager stuff. But then every now and then everyone loved chicken patty day. Oh, chicken patty day. You get chicken, mashed potatoes, and a roll, and some butter. So safe to say, it's called 3 hots in a cot. It's just food to just keep you living, and probably a lot more than people have seen, especially if they were on the street. Because too, in jail, I mean, even though you can get high, you can't get high like you were when you're out in the street. Like, a lot of people dedicate their whole life to being high. But in this instance, people go to jail and they stay there for however long, they gain some weight and their appetite. You're getting rehabilitated in a way that could be beneficial outside of the, controversial ways that jails are run. But you start to gain on this weight, start feeling better because, you're just getting your basic necessities met. Yeah, the food is really meager and like a lot of boiled eggs. Oh my God, niggas is farting. I mean, that was one of the things about having bunkmates, especially the older guys. I mean, they was just tooting. And if you're at the top bunk and somebody's tooting below you, oh my God, it feels like you're just getting straight cooked with flatulence. I mean, but they give you so much, peanut butter, eggs, peanut butter, apples, fruit. But anyway, I finally get my first job and I'm like, dang, waking up at 1 a.m. But when I go down there, we're cooking the policeman food. So they're preparing over easy eggs, menudo, all this stuff. And the cereals down there. So much stuff that we had access to that we actually got to eat after our shift was done. So I found that to be interesting. I did not want to wake up at 1 a.m. So I remember I faked a scuffle with this guy. Actually, I just was trying to be moved, but I didn't know that I was moving walk, because when I told the sheriff that I wanted to be moved because of a certain person, that was viewed as being a snitch. And it was this scrawny, white fella, and on the street, I never would have paid him no mind, but he was just you meet a lot of guys that are real comfortable with their racism in jail. I forgot what our exact thing was, but I just did not want to work at 1 a.m. anymore. So I risked being considered a snitch. But then they moved my work to starting at like 1 p.m. or something. But, you know, in that time, you're preparing food, you're preparing trays, and then you got to bust these dishes, which is why now I go crazy with the dishes, because I did so many dishes in jail. I mean, I did more dishes than I ever did in my entire life in that place. So basically what I'm saying is a lot of things I learned about jail weren't as stereotypical as you believe. You know, it was very mundane, but it wasn't like a lot of street stuff going on. A lot of guys just want to go home. And you talk to people and you chill and you kick it just like you do in any other community-driven space. And, you know, there are points in jail where it's fun. You know, hooping every day. Everybody work out together. We would fill up these bags with the books, and you go in the bathroom and you lift 60 pounds worth of books. Fill up a bag of water, put it in a bag and lift that. Do squats, push-ups, of course. Hella pull-ups, which is why I'm a pull-up king now. But there's this one dude in there named Vincent. Bro could hit. He could hit like 40 pull-ups in a row. Yeah. But the guy was locked down for 27 years, so it's like, yikes. But yeah, you know, in the mundane reality of jail, which I'm not trying to like persuade people you want to go to, you know, you find some times of humans always push to have joy and have fun. So that's just a part of our nature. But jail sucks. There's no women. There's no video games. If you like to get high, there's no bud. You have to get it in through other ways. There's no... all the things that are regular to your normal life aren't there. And to be surrounded by so many guys all the time is like, oh my God, you know, it's like, you can't steal away to really, because that's kind of like a no-no, and you'll kind of get put on blast. People do it. I mean, you got to handle your business, but but yes, it sucks, bro. It freaking sucks. It's literally like school detention, and you're sitting in here, you got this sheriff barking at you. Some are cooler than others. There's this whole phone call thing. Like, you could pretty much call whoever you want where I was at, but no one was answering my phone because they heard that, would you like to accept the charges? So, but ironically enough, people ended up coming to my court date, and still, from those signals of me calling them, they still came to support me. And when I tell you to just let people know that I was in jail, that felt good. Anyway, my court date comes around. I see my buddies and my soon-to-be girlfriend sitting in the stands, and I feel like I got a little audience, so I feel like showing out. And he's like, take me to the public defender, and I'm like talking to him, and they're not really telling me what I need to hear because I don't know what questions to ask. And he's like, the judge just starts talking to me, and I'm like interrupting him and stuff. And basically, I interrupt him so much, he's like, postpone. So they postpone me another week. Mind you, when you wait in court, you wait in this big ass fish tank of other guys. And literally, when the guys are walking past you to get put into other fish tanks, you see somebody you know, and they give you a signal so based on why they're in there. So I saw my friend's brother in there. When he went there, he had a fade. This fool had a huge Mac Dre afro. He walks past the tank, does this. I'm like, oh, you got hot caught with that heat. But I remember he was still in heat, so that wasn't really surprising. You're sitting in this fish tank with people, and there's a toilet. People are crapping in the toilet. They're politicking. You're sitting in here literally for 4 hours before you go into court. I didn't expect the judge to hit the gavel like that on me again, so I had to do that again. Eventually, I told the public defender at my next court date, I am just gonna sit down. How long did it take? They're like, you already been in here for 14 days, so now you have 40 more days. I think it was like 70 days, but 54 days good time. And good time is like if you don't fight or have any like transgressions or anything. So I figured out I had 40 days. I went in there February and I didn't get out till April. So I remember being in there St. Patty's Day. I remember what I was doing last St. Patty's Day, and I was like, wow, I'm really fucking up. Yeah, so I had to sit my butt down in jail for 54 days. Not knowing what I was gonna do, not knowing who's gonna pick me up, nothing. And where I was at with my parents was not inviting. So that'll give you some preface to why I was in there. But there were some crazy moments, some weird moments. One guy in there, he was like a neighborhood kind of drunk dude named the Leprechaun. Seeing him in there was pretty interesting. Some people want to be in there because they live in the street and they get food and all that stuff. I remember the craziest instance, the craziest story I had heard, and this is when things started to get kind of weird for me, is in the kitchen, one of the guys said, an Aramark employee, Aramark runs the jails, that in the refrigerator, the Aramark employee grabbed him by the nuts and was like, get out, and berating him. And I was like, bro, you know you can get a hella settlement for that. I don't know if he was lying or not, and if he was just, a compulsive liar, but everyone was like, what? Like the fact that that guy could feel comfortable, especially in that realm. I mean, there was no super criminals, well, that we knew of yet, but everyone was just either snitching or trying to go home. But that was crazy. I mean, he could have got a multi-million-dollar settlement off that, I feel like. And there's cameras everywhere. I'm sure there's cameras in the freaking fridge. But it didn't sound like he wanted to do anything about it. He felt very, very out of whack with that. Speaking of super criminals, you'd be chilling, right? And then out of the blue, a bunch of cops would come in with green jumpsuits, and the green ones are the felony. I don't know what level is either the orange jumpsuits or green. Those are some type of felony. Oh, I think green is when you upgrade to being in prison, and then they move you, and then you're just out of there and you get a different jumpsuit. But when you would see people get upgraded to green, you're like, whoa, like, and then you'd hear about their case, and then things would be kind of match up, like, oh, this person is very off. So luckily, I didn't run into any danger. I remember a guy wanted to press me in the kitchen, but I just remember there was just hella just water on the ground, and I was just like, walk away from this young blood. But yeah, your boy was locked up, DDC 5C, for 54 days. Thankfully, there were some people who had some solid mind about them. They told me that I could get Medicaid, and they told me I could get food stamps. So literally, that's like the only plan I had was when I get out of here, go to the Denver Human Health Services and get some food stamps. But luckily, the day that I got out, my two homies, one I'm not cool with anymore. We were all really close at one point, but my two homies picked me up when I got out, first thing in the morning. The first thing I do is put on my clothes, start just mobbing, because I don't know where I'm going to go. And I hear, Typhoon! It's my homie Reggie and Tyler. What? Y'all knew I was getting out? Bro. Get up in the car with them. They had a bleether waiting. A bleether is another word for the and like some Crown Royal apple or something. And a cigarette, because I used to smoke cigarettes for like 11 years. And I just remember being like, dang, like, I really do have some cool friends. Like, and, you know, it wasn't a long stint, but my homeboy let me, like, stay at his crib in the east side for a little bit, where the same stuff I was doing that got me in jail, I just continued to do there anyway. But yeah, there are so many stories that I left out. But yeah, it was crazy. It was a crazy thing because I don't belong in jail. Come on, I'm an art kid. I'm an art school kid. The only crime I really committed was trying to slang packs or some petty shoplifting. I had no business being in there. And I, wanted to make that very clear that I have... You ain't do no dirt. No, bro. I didn't do no dirt. In fact, I was trying to get out of a situation and I called the police on myself. There's so much context missing out of why I went to jail. Y'all are probably so confused. But yeah, I got out that bit. And my record wasn't clean, and it actually followed me for a little bit. Because if I would have took probation, I probably could have finished probation and had a clean record. But really, I had the infraction on me, but I didn't have probation. So I got out and I commenced to getting zooted, I tell you, just like I was doing before. But yeah, it was one of the wilder experiences of my life. I'm not gonna lie. I needed to see that, to see where rock bottom was. It was one of my rock bottoms. You have multiple rock bottoms in your life, I would say. I was pretty arrogant as a youth, and that humbled me in a way that I didn't know I needed. But for y'all out there that are, partaking in this and that, you could throw it away. You could throw it away as quickly as you want to. Let's just say that. You can, a couple split moments will determine the rest of your life in a whack-ass prison cell. And even though there were some light moments, that was just my spirit, just kind of clinging to just wanting to live and wanting to change my life. And I feel like that happens to anyone. And jail is no place, especially for a young black man, because that's where they really exploit how they feel about you in the jail. And luckily I didn't run into that too much because I knew better to just keep my mouth shut and not let my pride and ego run. But it could have got sticky in there. And if they wanted to make it harder for me, they could have. But luckily, I avoided that. But yeah, y'all probably like, why did you tell that story? Breeze is always like, you always have a like, it was a very impactful moment in my life. And I know I wasn't like locked up for any substantial amount of time. Like people I know that are gone for 40 years or even 5 years, but it really was a change in the direction of my life. And people were saying free Typhy and stuff, and when I got out, people were like, you out? Like, it was crazy. And I was only 22 years old, so. But yeah, your boy had to sit down in DDC 5C. And, I had to figure things out. And luckily, I got back on track. It took a while, but I did get back on track as best as I could at that moment. But yeah, man, that's my story time. Thank y'all for rocking with me, the ones that do watch this video. I'm at the way beginnings of this all, so that just goes to show you that I have a lot of work to do, but the support that I do get is mad appreciated. I need to figure out how to give back, and it's only going to get bigger from here. Road to 50 weeks on the way. This is episode 6, I want to say, so we're not that far off. But I'm going to keep hitting y'all over the head with this content. Thought-provoking, inspiring, consistent, exuberant content to get y'all through everyday life, or just to be the friend on the other side of the screen to relate to what you're going through, or the friend on the other side of the screen that can light your fire. That's what I'm here for. So yeah, again, I appreciate y'all. I'm gonna see y'all next episode. Like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll see y'all later.